meeting to order. This is the Tillamook County Budget Committee, and today is Wednesday, April 13. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We have the full Budget Committee here and present, and we have a number of departments and agencies, including the library, that will go through until about 4 o'clock today. Then we have one more day tomorrow that's a full day with a variety of departments and separate agencies, and we'll hear from them and consider their budgets as well. And then we wrap up tomorrow afternoon late, and then reconvene in May after certain directions are given to the county budget officer and adjustments are made in order to balance the budget. We'll talk about that in some detail tomorrow afternoon. So we're ready to start, I guess, if everybody's ready with the library, and it appears we have our director online. So Terry, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to join you all. So for our budget, we didn't have any significant major changes. A couple categories did ask for some additional funds. Mainly focusing on the main branch. We had a facility study done this past fall, and it's showing its age, so it needs to be repainted. And I thought we would start with the children's area. There are the windows on the west side of the building are where the building is settled. There's some cracking, so some things need to be repaired. The whole building needs to be repainted, so I thought let's go ahead and start children's area, fix those cracks. There's a puppet theater that's sort of awkward and it's really dark and ill-placed. So take that out, repaint, add some sensory details, different. The wall near the puppet theater have some sensory portions, and that is such a big part of early literacy. Repaint some new furniture, because the furniture that's in there is stuff that was, I guess, brought down from the upstairs children's, or the adult collection. And it's not really kid friendly. They're not super comfortable. They've been reupholstered. They're showing their age. So on the budget narrative document, I put it underneath the non-capital when it really is under the building improvements category. It would have some money for revamping the children's area, a new desk, new staff desk instead of one that actually works for the area, some new magazine shelving, sensory panels, new seating, and a new playhouse that's kind of like a tree house. I had one in my library growing up. And have fond memories of hiding from my sister because she's mean. And so it was always nice to have a safe place for kids to crawl into and read, and there's a top portion where they can sit as well. And repaint the room. I kind of estimated to be about $4,000. Fix the walls and the dismantling of the puppet theater. And then, so that in total is for the children's area. The other project here at Maine is that we recently just had a estimate done to see about switching our lighting to LED lights, so that over the course of years it would save money and it would help with eye strain for employees. And that estimation was about $45,000. There is a rebate that we would get through TPUD that was about $4,500. So it's upfront, it's a lot, but over time it would help to help with the cost of utilities and such. And then the other things for non-capital and for building improvements are new book drops at Pacific City, Garibaldi, and Manzanita. Each of them cost about $5,000. Well, they're about $4,500 fluctuation depending. And so I asked for money for those because the one in Pacific City is rusting out. The one in Garibaldi, the door doesn't open because it's rusting, and the Manzanita one is too small, and again it's rusting, which is a problem here in the Pacific Northwest. So that's kind of where that increase came in the $9,040 number. I'm not asking for any new staff. We currently have not open or almost open positions, totaling 9, and then
Jerry.
Jerry, just one question. Contracted services, 117,500. What's that for?
That has been a variety of things. It is part of our. I meant to look that up beforehand, but I completely forgot. It has different things in there. I can look and see and get back to you. I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to say something that's not correct.
That's fine, Jerry. It's the same as last year. I was just kind of curious as to what it was going to.
Yeah, well, we have a consultant who is helping us with our strategic plan. Nowhere near that we charge that much, but other things that have come in to help the facilities management consultants, who is an architect who designed this building, things like that. But then there are other services as well.
So Jerry, aren't the performers that come to the different libraries, they're paid out of contracted services? And I think we budgeted for them, but we haven't had open libraries for performers lately.
So that would make sense why I would have to do that, because we haven't had programs since I've been here.
True.
So.
And also we had an excellent financial analysis and for the library services. And
But that was last year.
yeah, that was paid out. So
Well, I was gonna ask a similar question, because you got 117,000 budgeted for this year and last year, and so far this year you've only used 43,000, so if it's for people visiting the library because of COVID, I guess that makes sense why you haven't spent it.
Yeah.
So on the FTE count, looks like you're going up almost a full person from just over 24 to 25. What is that position, or what are you filling in that you didn't have in the current budget?
So we had long, since when I started, I said, it'd be nice to have a systems librarian, somebody who speaks IS and also speaks librarian. And that position, Sean had put it into the roster of new employees, possible employees. And it came about because Damien, when he was doing his GIS position that was approved last year, it was kind of wrapped up using the same job description, some of the same qualifications, so that with the union-wise, it would be a bit of a mirror aspect of things. So that is still in there. I'm not sure if that position will be filled as is, or if it's going to be changed. That will be after I depart.
The other thing that Jerry did, they had, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 3.75 employees, and those employees got moved to full-time. So that bumped it up from a 0.75 to a 1.
Okay, so it was a mix then, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a question that gets asked every 5 years, and I've been asked this question in the past. If the levy fails, I assume you would try again in the November election, and you have adequate beginning cash balance of a couple $1 million to carry you through probably till that election is determined. If it failed again for whatever reason, then that presents a whole different scenario and a problem that the county's going to have to deal with. But is that an accurate statement to say then you've got adequate cash reserves to keep the doors open until, say, the end of the calendar year?
We do. We would have to, I think there would have to be some hearings, meetings, something to that effect, to make sure we can use those funds, because technically June 30th is when the levy sunsets. So yes, but we would have funds to keep us through the November election at that point. If it failed again, then the county would have to figure out what to do.
The problem, I think, would be one, and the county treasurer could speak to this, would be one of timing and getting it on the tax rolls, and it becomes a cash flow issue, and you
Yes.
might have to issue anticipation notes or something to make it work.
Correct.
Okay.
And Tassie said we all need to speak up a little bit, project a little bit more.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? And for Jerry, it appears to me this is fairly straightforward and not a significant deviation from past years, but questions from anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to ask Jeff. Jeff, are you familiar with this potential new position, a systems librarian?
I'm very familiar, and I very fully support it. I have been kind of acting in that role, and the lack of library knowledge has hindered me from being as effective as I could, so I think that's a fantastic position.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Jerry? Do you have any, you want to go into other parts of your budget beyond that?
Nope, it's very straightforward. I'm a pretty straight shooter kind of person, so feel free to ask me questions.
I like your plans for the children's section. That sounds really nice. And you're right, it's time to update it.
Yeah, I thought we would start small with that and smallish with that, and then over the next couple of years, paint other portions of the building because it's 15 years, so it's showing its bumps and bruises.
Could you speak to the, I don't know what you call it, the semi-park immediately to the west? Every so often,
Sure.
somebody says, what's the library up to and why have they got a fenced, inaccessible park? And that man
So,
says, well, I'm not sure, I'll ask.
That is the foundation park, Tillamook County Library Foundation's park. They are the ones who are making the decisions on it and have received some donations for different things. So this sort of construction season, there's going to be a small stage that is put in. There's going to be a walking labyrinth. It's not going to be raised. It's going to be a paved labyrinth that you can, meditation labyrinth. There is going to be spearheaded by Nancy Whitehead, plantings all along the wall of native Oregonian foliage. So there's still some more work to do. I started before I got here. The land was purchased from you all, but it pays back. I don't know. It's still a little complicated. And so they're turning it into a park that folks use. The cement has been poured for the light posts, so those are going in, and really is becoming just a place that we can have programs in the future. It could be outdoor meetings. If there's a group who wants to use the park for something, then by all means they can, as long as they clean it up afterwards, that sort of thing. So it really is just an extension of a meeting place essentially, and a community spot for people to use.
Thank you.
It's very pretty. I've had some outdoor meetings there. There are benches. I've met some people there to talk outside, and it's very pretty and coming along beautifully. And there will be public art out there. I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but I think the fence wasn't intended to be that high. That's what I recall was that it was a surprise to everyone that the fence ended up being as high as it is, because when you're looking at it, you see the fence, but you don't see into all the plantings and stuff. But it's not inaccessible. There's a fence across the street front, but there's a path, so you can get in there from the outside.
Okay, good. Well, that's
I think that was the case, that the landscapers sort of took some liberties.
Fence liberties.
Fence liberties. Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, please.
So Jerry, I'm sorry to see you go. I really am. You've done a great job in your year here. Bill Landau, my understanding, is going to be the interim director. So is he up to speed? You've been talking, is he up to speed on the interim position?
Yes, I've started copying him in on things. He just emailed me before this asking how the meeting went, and I said, well, it's in 20 minutes, so I'll email you afterwards. We have been discussing things, and I think they're still working out the details of the interim aspect of things. But I'm staying through the levy because I feel passionate about libraries and passionate about this for Tillamook and want to see it through the levy. But then do have to return to Missouri for some family matters that have come up, and I just need to how to make that tough choice, and family took one. So, but yes, I'm working with Bill, and even after I am no longer in Oregon, then I will still be reached. I'm not gonna, if there's a question, I don't mind getting a phone call or text to be asked. So.
And again, Jerry, you don't know how much I appreciate that very much. I really do. Transitions are difficult, and again, you've done a great job here, and I know you'll continue to keep Tillamook in your heart.
I will. I still have a pseudo brother here in Oregon, so I'm sure I'll come back to visit.
Great,
So.
super.
Yeah, I'd like to We may, we're gonna go on a road trip here before too long. So be careful what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And I do wanna,
Area, it's a different kind of pretty. Those are mountains, so it's a different kind of pretty for sure, but it still is very pretty.
and I wanted to thank you, your grip on the finances has been fantastic.
Oh,
I
thank you.
appreciate looking at these and where you brought the library, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support, and I'm sorry I'm not here longer, but each month, you know.
I do have one more question. I didn't pick up on it here. What's the condition of the bookmobile? I remember not too many years ago, this committee heard a rather impassioned argument that it was going to stop running and it was time for a new one.
I disagree with that. I apologize, I interrupted you, I'm sorry. I disagree with that. Bookmobiles, they're so expensive, you run them until they are, four wheels and a heap of metal. It's fine. I think it's probably about half-life, maybe a little bit past it. It does have, every once in a while, we'll have some slight mechanical issues popped up. There is a wiring issue that they're fixing, so one headlight is out, but if we turn on the headlight, like something else turns on, so.
Guys like that.
Just don't go again.
Yeah, so it is still going. I would say that in the future, if I were here, and I know I won't be, but if I were here, I don't think we need, I think we need a different kind of bookmobile. That one is not exactly the easiest to drive, which is a giant vehicle, but I've said this in various things, and so I'm repeating myself, but it drives like a teeter-totter. So you're going like this all the time. So I think there's a way you can get something that's a little bit different, that's a bit more functional for what Tillamook County needs. Something smaller, and more of a sort of limited, like the transit vans, or the transit buses that we have, the wave buses. Something a little bit smaller than that, so it would function a little bit better. But that's just my thoughts. By the time it's replaced, I'll be gone for 10 years. So, but I genuinely feel it's 2011. I feel you probably have another 9-10 years on that sucker. So.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So you're thinking more along the terms of a commercial style vehicle? I mean, this is more of a homeowner's type RV, so.
Yeah, I talked to the bookmobile driver. I was working the reference desk and was just decided to go look at Farber's, the folks that make bookmobile folks, and they have various categories. There's the sort of big handicap van kind of versions. There's the next step up, which is more like the small U-Hauls, and then the medium-sized U-Hauls, and then the big ones, and then the really big ones. And so, it's kind of there's a limousine service that in my hometown, which this doesn't help you any, but if you have those buses, those limo buses that you see transporting luxury folks from airports and things like that, they have those size, which is what I think is a better option for here. It is easier to drive, it's better road worthy, and has a better, the bookmobile actually has a very good turning radius. I think it's almost better than my RAV4, but it is very tottery, and that is driving it, and I'm the backup bookmobile, so drivers, next week I'll be out and about driving the bookmobile, and I have to go to Oceanside, and it is terrifying to drive over to Oceanside on that giant blue teeter-totter on wheels. But, so I think when the time comes, there are different options, and yes, they're very expensive, and that is why you drive them until they're, a scrap of metal with 4 wheels. But it really is great service and something that is so recognizable, because I've been doing a lot of community outreach events this spring, and I talk about the different branches, and one of the things I mentioned is the giant blue bookmobile. I'm sure you've seen, and there's always some nodding heads who everybody has seen the bright blue bookmobile out and about, and it's all over the county. It's still a big rural, and even though we have 6 branches plus the bookmobile, we're still far enough away that the bookmobile needs to go into these places.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And one caveat though, the bookmobile needs to continually be maintained. If it's neglected and not maintained, then yes, it'll die quicker. But we address issues as they pop up. So that's a key part of bookmobile maintenance. I took a class on that. Is about, for what to do with outreach,
Okay, well, thank you very much. For my part, I wish you the best in your next adventure, and
Thank
too
you.
bad you couldn't have lasted longer, but, you know, things happen, things change, and that's kind of the way things work in the world, so.
Yes,
I think
thank you, I
that-
appreciate it. I'm sad I'm not lasting longer too, but my mom was widowed and not doing great, so I have to return home.
Well, I think Tillamook County benefited from the time you were here, for sure.
Thank you, I appreciate it, I appreciate the kind words and the support this year, it's been great.
Thank you. All right, let's, do we have Joanne on to do parks yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay, there she is. All right, let's, oh, wait a minute here, hang on just a second. Jerry, are you still there?
Yes,
We usually ask a question or two about the law library, and I see there, I meant to ask about that. What, are you doing the law library as well, Jerry?
well, it falls underneath, the library, because it's housed here, and I submitted the budget documents for it. I kept things pretty much the same. That is something that the new bridge or main manager, her name is Wendy, when she joins us, will need to put on her radar to do something with, because it's been sort of, I don't want to say neglected, but new things are added, but we haven't promoted it, we haven't, there's some different resources there that are available that folks come to use time to time, but it does need some promotion and some education as to what's all available.
Okay, is that located, what we have, is that located here at the jail where we happen to be, pretty close to the jail right now?
It's at the library. It was in the courthouse from my understanding, but then it was moved over here and it's upstairs behind our reference.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking it was out here, not the case,
No.
okay. All right, any questions then for her on the law library? It sounds like that's just rolling forward from what's required and what it's been. All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can go over to parks. So do you have, Joanne, do you have a formal presentation, or you want to just go through your line items, or what's your preference?
I do have a presentation. I was hoping that somebody could give me privileges to share my screen.
1 second.
Thanks, John.
Okay. You should be a presenter now. Yep.
Okay. Let me drag you guys around here. 3 screens, trying to get the right one up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, I think we're good.
Okay. I gotta get to where I can see you. There, now I can see you again. Okay, so, isn't that beautiful? That's Barview, the beach here at Barview. Melissa actually took that photo for us, and we have it on our online reservation page. So, some basic history. The Tillamook County Parks Department provides safe, clean, and enjoyable camping, day use, and boating facilities to those who visit and live within the Tillamook County. We manage 1,890 acres of land in over 30 locations, 6 campgrounds with 636 overnight RV, cabin, and tent sites, 19 boat launches, 7 day use areas. The Parks Department was made a special revenue fund in 2009 and operates solely upon revenues collected through user fees. Moving forward in the upcoming year, one of our primary focuses is on recovering from COVID. It's been a challenge, the modifications that we've had to do in order to deal with the visiting public and keep them safe and keep our staff safe. So it's changing gears, trying to move forward, and then also keeping in mind the fact that there is a potential version BA, or I don't know exactly what they're calling it, that may be coming this summer. So we're keeping that in mind as we move forward also. But despite COVID campsite closures, camper occupancy is on par with pre-COVID occupancy numbers, and campsite demand is increasing exponentially. Actually, this last February, we had the highest February occupancy we've ever had for any year ever. And we last year had some numbers that were matching some of our highest years, even though we were still in under COVID restrictions, and we were operating at about 80% capacity due to a lack of staffing. So we're hoping, we're praying to hire seasonal staff to cover the increased usage of parks facilities by the public and the services that are required. Seasonal staffing is a primary source of staffing for us. We operate with 9 permanent staff members. We have 5 maintenance techs and office specialists, 2, the parks office manager and myself. And during COVID, we have suffered with a very, very, very decreased quantity of seasonal staff. Hosts also, we have a large volunteer basis. And our volunteer hosts, a lot of them are of an age that they are sensitive to health issues. And there were a lot of concerns and a lot of loss of hosts due to them not wanting to be exposed to the public during COVID. But the seasonal staffing issue was incredible, where we would normally have 4 to 5 staff in any given portion, we would have 2. Over the winter, we had 1. And so it's made it so that our maintenance techs have had to be performing the duties that our seasonal staff normally do. So I'm hoping that we will be getting seasonal staff to cover the seasonal staff duties again. So we've had elevated levels of trash, vandalism, and damage that have led to an increase in staff time and materials needed to provide the level of service required. We are looking at planning an expansion on Webb County Campground that is already in place and moving forward, and it will continue to move forward for years to come. The increase in the number of automated fee machines, the fee machines at the parks facility as connectivity allows will also be looked at. The fee machines are wonderful because they save staff time, and they also make it so that there isn't handling of money. It's more secure just for the safety of not having to interact with so much cash handling, but also, with the patrons being able to serve themselves. We are installing tracking counters and will continue to do so, and we're replacing Iron Rangers as needed. Iron Rangers are the fee collection boxes that we have at our outlying facilities and that people put their payments into. We are looking at installing Starlink satellite Wi-Fi at Wayland Island and Trask River County Campground to provide increased connectivity. One of the main things that we're getting from our hosts that we try and hire to work at those facilities is that they're cut off from the world. And we do have service provided by CenturyLink, and there are times when we have some issues with the phone service out there, and it isn't adequate to be able to give them the level of service they need to stay connected with family. So every year we have our regular storm damage, and as you can see, Nehalem, I always wonder why that power box that's underwater there practically doesn't go kaboom, but it doesn't. But we are going to have to continue the maintenance and repairs that are required to deal with the damage caused by inclement weather. Unfortunately, with the increased visitation that we've had, we've also seen an increase in abandoned vehicles, trash, vandalism, and other damage, which it causes an increase in services, the necessary services that need to be provided to clean this up. We also have had some increase in the vandalism and theft. People, as you can see with the one fee box there, if they can't break into it using the lock picks or saws or whatever implement they're using, they will literally chain up to them and drive off with them. So we've had fee boxes that have been totally removed. Historically, the fee boxes, back in the day in 2009, they were $500 to $600. They're now $1,200 to $1,500. The new style that we're looking at utilizing is the style, the long tubular style on the right with what they would reference as a puck lock. These are more vandal resistant, and these are what OPRD uses, and they've been successful for them for years, and this is the latest and greatest version, version 10, I believe, of the Iron Ranger, and that's what we're moving forward. Because we already have quite a bit invested in the boxes that we currently have out in place. As they're getting damaged or vandalized, or we're no longer able to have parts for, we're going to be replacing them with the new Iron Rangers. We have had an increasing number of visitors. As you guys, I'm sure, are aware of, outdoor recreation is growing swiftly. The Parks is working to create improved parking and access at facilities. Right now we have the North Jetty reconstruction project, and it has greatly affected affected the quantity of vehicles that we can have come and park at RVJ Campground. So in order to compensate for that, we have upgraded some of our parking areas and we've expanded them and improved them. As you can see, we have a couple different locations shown here. One of these is out on the spur road where the jetty construction can be viewed easily. So we have a lot of folks that go out there and video and take pictures and watch the actions that are going on. But it is, it's necessary because we do get upwards of 2,000 vehicles a day that come into Barview, and we are going to need every precious parking spot. So here's some facts for you folks. The outdoor recreation is growing. According to KOA 2021 Annual North American Camping Report, from 2014 to 2018, there was a consistent growth of about 2 million new households per year getting into camping across North America. 2018 to 2019, it jumped from 39.2 million to 41.9 million households that went camping. In 2020, it exploded. It went from 41.9 million to 48.2 million households camping. So it was a 3-time increase in the quantity of new people that are going out and camping. Specialists at NAI Outdoor Hospitality Brokers expect this renewed attention to camping will continue for years to come. According to KOA Monthly Research Report, campers and leisure travelers alike are looking to get out and try new things as COVID-19 wanes. Even as fuel prices rise, people are still looking to vacation, and camping is an affordable travel option. And most campers stay within 100 miles of home, and we're all aware that 100 miles is a lot of people. Right over the mountain, we have a lot of people that love to come camping with us. So we've done quite a few different partnerships and donations so far this year. We've had 3 different annual day use access pass work groups, and that was for 36 different patrons. Cash value of $1,980 for the passes received. We do have additional work groups that are being planned. We've also continued the discount program for seniors, disabled vets, and Oregon Trail Card members for purchasing a reduced price annual day use pass. We've had 1,054 discounts given, and that's a total of $10,054 that has been donated to help the seniors, disabled vets, and Oregon Trail Card members. We provided disabled Oregon veteran camping discounts to 29 veterans for 114 days, cash value of $3,041. We regularly partner with SOL for beach cleanup events that require parking at facilities. We've partnered with Safety on the 6th. We've partnered with Tillamook School District for an educational field trip that require passes. We partnered with OSU Juntos Afuera for an educational field trip. We partner with Heroes on Waters for kayaking trip events. Those were on hold during the main portion of the COVID pandemic. They are restarting again, so that's really beautiful. They go to Lake Lac quite a bit and some other facilities on occasion. We also partner with WEB's Migrant Outdoor Recreation Program and with Liberty Maintenance for work that is being done on Mills Bridge out on Highway 6. We partnered with the Nestucca, Nesquin, and Sand Lake Watershed for an Nestucca Bay cleanup that required passes. So we do actively partner with quite a few different agencies trying to help people get out and enjoy the recreational opportunities that are available. So our strategy plan is to remain solvent and financially independent of the county general fund. And we do that by collecting user fees, participating in the OPRD RV registration revenues, grant revenues, partnerships, gifts and donations, other revenue sources and funding is available. The focused approach allows for stabilizing the existing revenue centers and facilities within the Parks Department, enhancing existing Park Department facilities in a manner that makes them competitive within the marketplace, maximizing the Parks Department earning capabilities by modernizing, marketing, incorporating new trends, expanding existing, and adding new revenue sources. So this is going on to the primary budget differences between last year's budget and this year's budget. And so the 4301 fees, boat ramps. Bill is going to be excited about this one because we were doing really well. We're 266 $167,500 is what we budgeted for revenue, which back in the day was $90,000. We used to get $90,000 or thereabouts in revenue, and now we're getting $267,500. And this increase is due to the day use fee increase and the increased annual pass sales. So that has come across successfully. And small tools and minor equipment, there's a minor increase on that. Excuse me. $1,100, we increased that, and that was, we have aged hand tools and aged small tools that need to be replaced. Computer software and licensing. Now I broke it down into all the different breakdown that it goes through. The entire amount is actually proportioned 24,150 to parks and 1,850 that goes to boat launches. But it's pretty much licensing. It's for our AFM machines, their monthly fees, maintenance contract, Kamaba monthly fees, our office and such. Fuels and lubricants, that is a huge increase. It's pretty much doubled, a little over doubled. But the cost of gas right now, the cost of fuel is very fluid, and it doesn't seem to be going down. And so we have to be prepared because we have vehicles on the road every day, everywhere, lots of vehicles. And so the cost increase was figuring approximately a 70% increase in the cost of fuel. So postage and shipping, postage and shipping, that is a slight increase in the parks portion, and that's for the increased sales of annual passes. Telephone bills, we do have our AFM machines, which each one of those machines is connected by cellular service, so that it has increased our self-service or our telephone costs. Our network fees, it's going for the Starlink service and for the increased network costs for out of our hotline products. And bank fees. The bank fees are for our credit card sales. So every time the credit card is used at any facility, there is a bank fee associated with it. And AFMs also get bank fees, the same exact bank fee when they're processed there. So our expenses in boat launches, computer software and licensing, this is the same thing that you saw in the parks portion. I should explain the previous portion. The 13,200 is for the parks, and the 13,201 is for the boat launches specifically. So the boat launch portion that increased here was $1,850 in increase for computer software and licensing. Fuel and lubricants, same thing. It's the quantity of fuel, the price that's going up, and hopefully the price will start to go down, and this increase will be not necessary, but we put it in there just in case. And printing and advertising, we do have an increase to the quantity of annual pass and an increase for mailing those annual passes. Telephones, the AFM machines and the tablets. A new feature that we are doing is we've got some tablets so that we can do some, as our fee collectors are going around and checking sites to see if people have extras or if they've paid or if they haven't paid, they will actually be able to have a tablet, sort of like Starbucks, and be paying on site right there. It's going to be handy. I'm hoping that we will be able to utilize it and have it work really well. It is a new feature, so we're still sort of in the trial phase on that. Contracted services, our seasonal staff. In order to try and get seasonal staff this last year, we had to do an incentive, a hiring incentive, $500, and they need to stay with us for at least 3 months in order to collect that. But the $500 incentive, it did get us at least somebody, because it was something that people were talking about, and it put us out there a little more. I'm hoping that at some given point we won't have to do that, but right now we still have to do that in order to try and have an incentive for people to come to perform seasonal duties for us.
And Joanne, can I say something about that? That's the seasonal employees through BBSI and not county employees.
All of our seasonal staff are through BBSI, yes. Was that an answer to your question, Sean? I could really hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted that out there for clarification.
Yeah, it's not for county parks, permanent employees. It is seasonal employees that we contract through BBSI. So they are contracted employees. And 13202 is our parks projects. Now, we did have quite a bit of changes in there. One of them is our non-capital equipment. I believe, okay, we've got it in here. The price is actually cheaper than what we had last year, so our prices have went down on the non-capital equipment that we were purchasing. And I could read through all this, but I don't know if you guys want me to. So the basic for total for all the non-capital equipment was $28,400. The basic reason is we have to keep computers current. We need to have credit card terminals to receive payments from patrons. The Wi-Fi extender is needed at remote facilities because there is no coverage in some of these facilities. We're replacing outdated, non-working, and unusable equipment. We're tracking visitor numbers at facilities needed for usage trends and planning. And the increased vandalism and theft at remote boat launches require installation of the cameras. And the Starlink systems are for those remote locations at the outlying campgrounds.
How are those working, the Starlink? Is that, are you having some success with that, or is it too early to tell?
It's too early to tell. We're in line. It's not active yet. You get in line and you wait for your turn, and it seems as though it's quite popular, and we're waiting in line. So we may not get this until this winter. It's quite popular. There's a swarm of people signing up for it.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So
I'm
Joanne,
sorry.
is Starlink going to be for your guests, or is that going to be mostly for your employees?
It's for our hosts. It's for our staff.
For your staff, there you go, okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's an incentive to try and get people to come work for us
Yeah.
because we have a really challenging time at some of the remote locations because of the lack of connectivity.
Perfect, thank you.
So what do the guests or the overnight people, you said earlier when they come in, they sort of expect Wi-Fi these days that they can stay in touch. You know, in the old days, camping was sort of
Get away.
the opposite, was get away from all the civilization, you know, and get up with the birds and the bees and all that. But I'm sure that most everybody's walking around with a phone trying to stay connected. So how does that work then in the, say at Barview or one of the campgrounds?
Well, we for the Wi-Fi, we don't have it available currently for the public. That's issues that we want to work through with IS to make sure that we have any safety precautions in place. And so right now it's for staff only, and it's primarily a safety feature for our staff to be able to have that additional connectivity. The general public, we don't have that capability at this time. We're still working out the safety features on that.
What about the state of Oregon? Are they working towards that end as well? State parks?
I don't believe they don't have Wi-Fi available at their facilities either. So I'm not exactly certain what their process is. I haven't talked with them about that recently.
So if you want to find out what's going on, you're dependent upon cell service or maybe a satellite on top of your RV or something.
If you can get it. Some of the locations we have, you can't get visibility to the satellites because we have extreme tree coverage. Out at Coaches, it's a challenge. It's gonna be a challenge. You ready?
Yeah, keep going.
Thank you. So on to the contracted servicing. We hire electrical and plumbing contractors as needed for repairs. And the South Fork work crew, we were very fortunate that this year we were going to be able to utilize them a little bit. They were shut down for quite a while, but they are starting back out again, and they really, really help us, especially with our reduced staffing that we've had, to get in there and get the campgrounds ready. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of work to get the windblown branches, debris, mowing, all the fun stuff that goes with landscaping and maintaining a campground. Memalus, the dredging project, is going to be contracted. I'm hoping that we're going to have this done this fiscal year. It's very doubtful. I'm getting as much paid as I can this fiscal year, but I know that there's gonna be a majority of the contracting portion that is going to be rolling into next fiscal year. So the Memaloose dredging project is taking a bit of change from us, a bit of money. The web park expansion, that we're looking at utilizing contracting for any of our engineering that we need to have done. Anything that's going to be going on with that is going to be dealing with contracted services. And we also have an excavation contractor that we like to utilize to do repairs and maintenance at our parking areas that we're not able to repair ourselves. Too big of a project that we can't handle ourselves. So R&M buildings and grounds, we're continuing on putting interior park gates up. They really come in handy. We found from experience that they're quite a bit easier to work than those concrete barriers. So if we need to close a facility, anybody can use the gate and close the gate. The concrete barriers, when we went through the pandemic and the initial close down in 2020, that was a huge chore, and it was time consuming to unclose, to open again. So the gates are wonderful, and they're really nice, and they're very expensive, so we have to do them piecemeal at a time. And gravel and rock, gravel seems, the earth just eats it, so we are constantly having to put in more gravel and utilize more rocks. And parking lot sealing and striping, we're looking at doing that at multiple facilities. Right now we're working on NETARCs. There's going to be some asphalt patching and some seal coating and striping going on. But we also have Nehalem, and to be honest, I don't have my other one right in front of me of what we were looking at, PC Launch, that we're needing to look at doing some restriping and some parking lot maintenance on. So asphalt pave and repair, that asphalt is expensive, and the price of oil asphalt is even more expensive. So it's just an expensive process. It's all expensive. Black gold, as some people like to call asphalt. Picnic tables, repair and maintenance on those. It's never ending. We have 636 sites, and each one of them has a picnic table, and they constantly are needing to have staining and cleaning, and our replacement fire rings for unusable fire rings. They are a metal product, and they get eaten at Grandma Post. So our R&M equipment, we get annual maintenance for our golf cart landscaping equipment, and that pretty much is what that's for. So continuing on with the projects, we have permit fees. These permits, primarily, we're looking at anything for web park expansion and anything for Memaloose that might not get covered under this fiscal year, and any other facility that we need to get a permit for. So vehicles, we're looking at replacing vehicles. This is, lordy, I just hope that the vehicle flow starts again.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty nightmarish. But we're looking at getting 3 pickups and a dump truck. And hopefully everybody will cross their fingers for us that does, that things start going a little smoother, because it's been a challenge. So we're also looking at getting 2 additional AFM machines and 2 golf carts. Now our infrastructure, you're going to see that we have money moved from land acquisition into 9081 infrastructure new construction, and that is primarily for the web park expansion project. It is just a tiny little drop in the bucket on what's going to happen there, but it is moving forward on what the large infrastructure project that it is going to be. And we're currently, as you're probably aware, in the planning and design phase. So we're also, 9084, we have some money in there for asphalt in the entrance of Kilchis. It has been a gravel area, and we're trying to make it a little more ADA compliant and put some asphalt in the park surfacing in there. And that pretty much covers all of our changes. And does anyone have any questions for me?
Are the golf carts electric or gas?
Well, golf carts are unable to be attained right now, and we historically get gas, and we get used. We may have to revert to going to electric. We do have 1 electric golf cart. The batteries are deep cell batteries, like what you So when you have a battery issue with a golf cart that's an electric cart, you're talking a couple grand in batteries. They're expensive for maintenance, but you know, it's right now beggars can't be beggars can't be choosers on what is available, and there is really nothing available. So I'm gonna see what we can get. We have one electric, and the other 12 are gas.
Would an ATV be a good substitute, or is it totally different? I know probably the carrying capacity might be different, but if you look at ATVs.
Yes, we do have some. Oh my goodness. Now I'm drawing a blank on what the exact name of it is, but yes, we do. We have a couple of those, and we utilize them at like Trask Campground because it's a rougher terrain, and they use that for landscaping. You know, when they're hauling the mower around and picking up stuff at the campsite. So we do have some.
The parks has what are called John Deere Gators. That's-
There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Sean.
So Joanne, will you be looking for a used dump truck or?
I'm hoping, I'm praying for a new one.
How large, like 10 yards, or how big a dump truck? We'd like to see the
5
big
yard.
truck, big guys?
Yeah, 5-yarder. We, you know, our campsite, some of our campsites that we need this equipment to go into can't handle the ginormous stuff. And if we are gonna be utilizing a 10-yarder, we're gonna be paying for whatever material it is to be brought in by the like Moeller Sand and Gravel or Closeway or whichever construction company that provides gravel would be utilizing, we'd be using them. And they bring the 10-yarders in.
So I read some letters to the editor the other day, I think it was in the Oregonian, about people who were disgusted with parks. And Stubb Stewart was one of them mentioned, that they go out there for a little peace and quiet and they find a bunch of people flying drones. What is the practice and prohibitions, if any, on drone flying these days?
Well, I know that currently OPRD is setting up guidelines on that, and to be perfectly honest with you, they're doing the hard work, and I would really, I've talked with Joel briefly about this in the past, and OPRD is paving a path for us to be able to follow. So it's going to be interesting to find out how that goes about and what exact restrictions they have, because, you know, there are privacy issues involved, and you know, native wildlife, our birds don't like to be pursued by drones any more than our patrons do. So it's going to be interesting to see what OPRD comes up with.
So even if you had a policy, then somehow it's gotta be enforced.
Exactly.
So we've got a bit of an issue coming your way, I would think, on drones.
It's a challenge.
So, Mr. Chair, speaking of enforcement, Bay Ocean gets, you were saying, up to 2,000 visitors a day. What percentage of those should be paying parking fees, and what percentage actually pay the fee?
Oh, Bardview gets 2,000 vehicles a day. And, you know, we were doing educational for a lot of our attempts at communication with patrons, and we don't really have enforcement capability and for safety purposes, we don't want to have our staff out there trying to be a hard enforcer in today's environment. People can be really mean right now, and they can be really impolite. And so there's no amount of money that's worth any staff member we have's life. And so we are still pursuing that educational position, and we get about 60% compliance.
Because on 2,000 visitors a day, that's $20,000 a day if they were all needing parking permits.
It's been a bit of an educational bump here at Bardview, because with the jetty construction going on, it's cut a lot of our visitation down. There's nowhere for them to go out there. Like we frantically, on the photos that I showed of the parking, we frantically have been trying to improve parking, but to a certain extent, we can only handle so many. You know, there can only be so many vehicles that can come in here. And a lot of people do utilize the fact that they can come in for 15 minutes and they don't have to pay. 15 minutes, you can use the restroom, you can see if this is a place you want to stay. You can take a quick photo of whatever rock they're moving or whatever they're doing out there at the jetty, and then they're leaving. So it does turn around for a bit of a turnover, but the folks that are here, we have started interacting with them more, the ones that are staying for longer than 15 minutes. But still that interaction is, we're keeping it mild because I don't want to cause any kind of a conflict with staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanne, am I correct in thinking that there's no enforcement, no parking enforcement at Bay Ocean's Bed?
No, there is no enforcement. We do have a courier that goes through, and when he's there, he is collecting garbage and cleaning the parking lot and making sure that the place is presentable, checking toilet paper in the porta potties. But he also does leave citations, warning envelopes. I should refer to them as, because they aren't actual citations. They are a warning envelope explaining the ordinance and the potential fine that could be charged. And you know, he does do that, but he's not citing people or kicking them out.
Thank you.
So there is technology that you can use for this, and I brought it up in the past, and I'll bring it up again today. You can get a facility where when people come in and pay, they put in their license plate number, and then you just have a car with a camera on it. You drive through the parking lot, you get all of those license plates. If they haven't paid, an automatic letter goes back to them saying you owe us $10. That's used in Portland. It's used in many of the cities. It was used in Washington D.C. when we were there. And there's several firms that do that. That takes all the pressure off of enforcement. You don't have somebody there that's writing out a ticket and getting yelled at. You just drive through. And a lot of the parking structures are now using that technology.
Okay. Thank you.
I know you had reached out to me, Bill, and you had mentioned that, and I did talk, I emailed with our AFM provider on what capability they had. Google Parking isn't something, they don't have the tap screen on any of their stuff. They don't have a tie-in with Google Parking as of yet, but he has reached out to their development division to see if that's a future thing that they're going to be enacting. And he's going to be letting us know how that progresses as it moves forward. We do have the capability of people right now typing in their parking, their vehicle license number into the machines. It's an added expense to the setup on the machines that we have, but then it's going to be somebody else that's going to have to go along and look for the passes that they have to see that they match with the license plate. So the machines that we have aren't currently set up to be able to utilize that feature that you're talking about.
Yeah, I understand that, but I do think it's something worth some research.
Definitely, it definitely is. It's very interesting.
Because I've been to Bay Ocean, and there are 60 cars out there, oftentimes on the weekend, and that's only for a 2-hour stretch. And I know we're not getting $600 a day out of those machines.
Yeah, the enforcement. The enforcement portion, the feet on the ground part, is the challenging part for us right now.
Right.
On having somebody available.
I know, and I would hate to put staff at risk. I mean, that's the last thing you'd want to do. But if there's a way of doing it without putting staff at risk, then as a budget committee member, I would be supportive of the budget committee funding something like that. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think the added challenge out there is it turns over so many times in a day, specific to Bay Ocean,
Yeah.
you know, and when do you drive around and you know, just the interesting piece.
You don't have to do it very often. They get a few letters and they'll start paying.
If they were the same people all the time,
Yeah, or they'll get a permit.
they need a little gate that they break that in our people.
Oh, yeah.
If we didn't have trouble hiring people, it
Yes.
would be worth checking out, you know, what would it cost what would it pay for itself to have one person who is doing that, driving around to all of the day use facilities? You know, it would be
Absolutely would.
pretty sweet job to just drive around and take pictures of license plates all day to our beautiful park facilities.
I would do that in a car with a little light on there.
Yeah.
Like
It's like the
Bill, are you
Ghost
volunteering?
And it might pay for itself if we could hire somebody to do it.
If we could find somebody.
So you're comfortable then, Joanne, with this budget, that you can get through another year, even with everything that seems to be happening and vandalism and all of that?
Yes. The hardest part that we're gonna have is staff. We've been short-staffed, even with permanent staff members. Staffing is a huge issue, and I understand that trying to recruit to bring staff in from other areas is a challenge because there's no housing for them. It's just a staffing thing. I think it's not only our department that has that concerns. I think every department and the entire county has that concerns. So I'm always, staff are precious. They are one of our most precious commodities we have. And I have to tell you that Tillamook County is blessed with some of the staffing they have in their departments. Even though they have been short-staffed, anytime we've ever reached out to the sheriff's office, they are there for us. They've helped through some pretty intense situations with some patrons that might be having some kind of a breakdown of whatever reason in their life. That some people come here to escape, and some people they come here to potentially have a bad episode. And so I just want to put my shout out. I am so appreciative of everything that Josh and his department have done. Public Works, every time we've ever reached out to them for help, they're here for us. So you guys have a beautiful team. I'm sure you're already aware of that. But every department is really willing to help each other, and I am grateful to be part of that because they have helped us through a heck of a couple years right now. And even more so, every day I'm grateful for the partnership I have with all the other departments.
Thank you, Joanne. Hey, could you speak to how many staff you are short, permanent staff and temporary staff and hosts?
Well, host Melissa, boy, she is a blessing. I just can't even toot her horn enough. That woman is amazing. She has, I think today she locked us down for one of the last 2 host positions that we had available. And this is, for us, this is stressful because our season opening is in, 16 days or 17 days. So she has one more host position that we're needing. It's a volunteer host position at Kiltus Campground. Paradise, heaven on earth, it's gorgeous out there. And our seasonal staff, we need about 10. So we're looking at fee collectors and laborers. And our permanent staff, right now we're looking for a buildings and grounds maintenance tech 1. It is an outdoor position, and it's, all I can say is we're really blessed that we live in Paradise here and people get to work in it. So, come on.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Any other questions for Joanne?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
So Joanne, are you fully open then? Have you let go of all of the restrictions from the pandemic, and are you planning to have all spaces available? Are you booked out for all spaces, or have you kept sort of a little bit of control based on your challenges for staff?
We're actually at 80% open.
Okay.
Well, right now we're in the winter season. So here at Barview, we have about 100 sites. We have, a couple hundred that are still closed in the back area. And we have to wait till our hosts are rolling in. We don't have our hosts back there yet. But all in all this summer, we have about 80% of our sites available to rent. 20% have been held back. It's easier to open up than to close down.
Right.
So, and we're looking, when we can get some more laborers in, we want to reopen our showers. Our showers, people need them, they want them, they call for them. But if we have a choice between a toilet or a shower, we're going to choose to keep a toilet open over a shower anytime. But yeah, we want to open back up to 100%. I'm being cautious. I don't want to rush where angels fear to tread. So I want to try and keep a semblance of control over what the possible capability we can have of people coming in and overwhelming us again. So 80% right now. I'm hoping that by the 4th of July we'll be at 100%. God willing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Well, I remember back when you were the Parks Department, was part of the general fund and had some difficulties, and as I recall, there were some subsidies that had to be brought forward to keep things solvent. And since it fell out of the general fund and been on its own, I don't think there's been any subsidy required from any part of the county elsewhere that I remember. So to the extent you're balancing your books every year and getting things done and still have an aggressive capital program, I'd say you're doing exactly what you were hired to do, which is make things work and be responsible. And so good for you, good for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's a challenge, but we're getting there.
Of course. All right, thank you then. We'll move along. Next up would be Public Works, and I guess we'll see Chris is online or staff or all of the above.
I see Chris.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm going to put up a quick PowerPoint show. Okay, so you should be looking at a PowerPoint show related to road department. Let me know if that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So when we're done with this presentation will be posted on the county website under Public Works Road Department. So if somebody is watching online, please feel free to look at this. So a couple things, we'll go fairly quick through here. The road department deals more than just what you see on the road. It's not just a black. We also deal with bridges, culverts, emergency response, stockpiles, quarries, buildings, levees, tide gates, guardrails, etc., mowing, vegetation management, and of course engineering. Storms, you can't talk about public works without talking about storms. Since January of 2017 through February of 2022, we have spent over $1 million on storm response. That does not include money that has been assigned as matching funds for 2015 storm damage, which you'll continue to see that out to the year 2024, and hopefully no further than that. That equates to essentially one person dedicated, one person full-time per year to deal with storms. Altogether, Public Works, the road department, we're going to be specific to the road department in this case. For those interested, Public Works breaks down to solid waste in the road department. What we're talking about today is the road department. So altogether, we manage $19 million, a little north of $19 million through 4 different funds. Operating revenue, when you strip all that out and you only look at, if you exclude the beginning balance of one-time revenue.
Chris?
Can I interrupt your screen? If you're clicking forward through your presentation, it's not working for us. We're still on the first slide.
Okay, we're going to change screens then. Thank you for that. How about that?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we'll back up slightly. So this is what the road department manages. It's quite a lot more than just what you see on the ground, which is black paving and striping the pavement markings. So $996 million is what the infrastructure is worth. So getting close to $1 billion worth of value associated to the infrastructure in Tillamook County. In storm response, $1.1 million spent over the last 5 years, and that does not include matching funds associated with the 2015 storm damage, of which is quite a bit. We manage a little north of $19 million between the 4 different funds that we are operating. If you exclude in just Fund 160, which is our operating budget, if you exclude the beginning balance and all the one-time revenues, our true annual operating revenue is $5.4 million. So when you talk about the road department, we talk about primarily two different things, the timber dollars versus the tourism dollars. So if you look at this going back to 1989 to 2013, it is evident that the timber dollars, this is inflation adjusted, just assuming 3% per year, you'll see quite a bit of difference between, timber versus TOT. TOT has contributed a significant amount to our budget, but it does not come close to what we received back in the late 80s, early 90s. And you'll see a little bit more of the impacts coming up. So in order to anticipate what we had in the past, we need to look here to the future. We need to kind of project where we're going to end up at this fiscal year. So what you see in front of us is kind of our end result without using the $800,000 contingency and without using the $4 million unappropriated impounds, which we're not supposed to use anyways. Even with all that said, we'll leave about 13% of the total personnel budget on the table, and almost $350,000 that we will not have spent on personnel services. The road department, the largest impact on that is oil, and obviously you're paying for that at the pump right now. One of the common misconceptions, if you buy gas in Tillamook County, the county gets the gas tax, and the answer to that is no. No matter where you buy gas tax in the state of Oregon, all that goes to ODOT, and ODOT distributes it up amongst the state, the counties, and the cities. So it doesn't really matter where you buy gas tax, unless you're a local gas tax, and the city of Tillamook has a local gas tax. It really doesn't matter, we still get a portion of that. And the Oregon and federal gas tax has not been changed since the early 90s. You pay at the pump 56 cents per gallon, and diesel you pay a little bit more. So we get in there and say, okay, we've got a significant change in fuel. Ukraine, Russia is certainly impacting us. So we look back in the past and see really what has changed. Interesting enough, when you look at the prior year's recessions, going back to the mid to late 1970s, you'll see that the vehicle miles traveled reduces by about 2.5% per year, so really not that bad. But it does modify what we receive at the pump in our gas tax. So House Bill 2017, which is Keep Oregon Moving, this was a bill passed by the state back in 2017. It is really helping to offset, our costs by increasing some of the gas tax. Questions that's asked of me is, what happens with the electric and hybrid vehicles? So in order to kind of counterbalance the offset of gas tax for these type of vehicles or any high miles per gallon type of vehicles, the state has increased the title fees. So the counties receive state highway trust funds, which is not only the gas tax, but it also dials into your title registration fee, a one-time shot per vehicle, until you renew. So the big federal bill that passed, everybody says the county's going to be rich. We have a lot of money that is coming from that program, which is not entirely true. We will actually see projected about $13,000. So somewhere between $75,000 and $13,000 is what we'll actually receive in the next fiscal year based on that federal transportation bill that was passed. The big thing that happened there is that we stabilized our federal timber dollars. We do not receive money from the state timber. We receive money from cutting in the Siuslaw National Forest. So general fund gets state timber. The road department does not get state timber. We get federal timber cut out of the Siuslaw National Forest. Radical change in our system. TLT has been a significant impact. If you, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the revenue from 21-22. And in purple, 36% of the road department's, this is projected, 36% of the road department's revenue is associated with transient lodging. Revenue in 22-23, the proposed budget has 28% transient lodging tax in it. And honestly, I figure that's gonna be higher than that. We are a bit conservative in our approach to that. So TOT is playing a significant dollar amount into our budget. Kind of dialing down into some more specifics to get into your geocodes, I'm gonna just kind of highlight some of the larger geocode items. In state motor vehicle fund, when you take into account, you see the proposed budget, what we've adopted and what we received or projected to receive by the end of this fiscal year. While we'll see a drop in motor vehicle fund, some of the counter to that would be the House Bill 2017 is going to help offset the loss of revenue because they're increasing gas tax by 2 cents per gallon. TOT revenue, that's a little bit of a wild card. By the end of this fiscal year, we received almost $2.2 million. Working with Sean and the other departments, Sean and I had kind of agreed that $1.5 million is a conservative approach to next year's fiscal budget. Moving into administrative, so we're all just in Fund 160. 160 is the revenue department. Major changes in this is we're looking at replacing some of the administrative vehicles, basically selling off 2009 era Ranger vehicles for a single, we have 2 of those, for a single F-150 that we will re-up as a admin/engineering vehicle for serving. If you'll see the operating contingency and the unappropriated ending fund balance, they really fundamentally don't change that much. Down into maintenance expenses. Currently, what's in there, if you go back to revenue, you'll see a additional $250,000. This revenue, miscellaneous revenue, that was associated with ARPA funds. So as revenue came in for bridges, revenue was extended for bridges at $300,000. And I think that needs to be corrected, possibly in the bond or in the budget process as we move forward. Regardless, it's revenue out, it's a no net change. Fundamentally, we'll see an increase of about $50,000 on bridges, and that is only for material acquisition. That is not actually constructing a bridge, that is just material acquisition. The bond expires in February of 2023, so this upcoming February, to kind of to help us out, spring paving, spring of 2023, I budgeted an additional $600,000 to continue our paving operations. That'll take us through the end of next fiscal year. Bond money plus Fund 160. The other thing of note is that we get into Fund 160 in the engineering component. One of our prior employees was conducting a lot of our culvert inventories. So GIS is Geographical Informational Services, and that's where they go out there and they physically locate through the satellite system where our system transportation infrastructure is located at. We're looking at consulting that component out. What's happening with the cost of fuel? We had budgeted $120,000. We go through a lot of diesel. We have our own tank. We don't pay at the pump like everybody else. We have our tank, fuel tank that's located in the Tillamook yard. The only people that can use it is our vehicles, our trucks, our equipment. We had budgeted $120,000. I'm anticipating that we will have spent about $136,000 by the end of the fiscal year before June 30th of next summer, by this summer, June 30th of this year. I've essentially doubled that to $240,000. That is twofold. One is just the increase of cost of the diesel, but then it's also all the ripple effects that go with it. In addition to that is the trying to go heavy with putting down asphalt and finishing off the bond. All the bond diesel costs associated with bond comes out of this fund, out of shop expense. expenses. You'll see some miscellaneous modifications through there as well. In summary, with Fund 160, you'll see that if in the operating revenue, if you excluded the beginning balance and you exclude all one-time revenues, which would be any funds that we received from FEMA, from Federal Highway, an odd revenue expense that we did not account for, such as we received a bonus, or excuse me, a refund, I'm going to call it bonus, but a refund from ODOT through Federal Highway for the Lowen Bridge, a large bridge on Miami Foley. If you exclude all that, our true operating revenues is $5.4 million. If you take a look into the proposed budget and you assume that we are fully staffed for an entire year, personal expenses will equate to 59% of the operating revenue. To put that in comparison, we have actually been up to 66% of our operating revenue back in 2014. And this year, we will close out at 38% of our operating revenue. And by that, I mean the total cost going out to staff versus the total operating revenue, as you've seen here. We went from 66% down to at the lowest point at 38%. We're proposing 59%. We can get in that to a little bit more detail. Some of the significant cost differences are additional spring paving, bridge material acquisition, and the $130,000 for culvert inventory, which we were taking care of in-house. And then all the miscellaneous revenues are associated with oil, and there are a lot of those repercussions. The ripple effect of that goes through a lot of our operations. That's a quick summary of 160. That's again the operating budget. We'll transition into Fund 163, which is our Ped Bike Fund. And the people that are watching this online want to dial it into a little quicker, into more minute detail. This will be posted on the Tillamook County website under Road Department. And if you're online, if you want to ask questions, please feel free to do so. So pedestrian bike funds. 1% of all the state motor vehicle funds, which is essentially the gas tax and your vehicle registration fee, 1% of all the revenue that the county receives has to go towards Ped Bike. So anything that's pedestrian or bicycle oriented. For next fiscal year, our anticipation is to support this one corridor multimodal path design. We'll generate about $30,000 into the program, which really buys us not very much. So this support into the design will pay dividends down the road. It's a very simple expense. Not included in my PowerPoint is Fund 165, which I believe you have, which is the trust. It's a fund associated with the Trask Road. And this year we close that out. If it's not happening by the end of this fiscal year, it will by the end of next fiscal year. And that was funds that were specific and only relevant to Trask Road. So we can certainly answer more questions on that. Fund 307 is the road bond. It expires in February of 2023. We're currently paying 26 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, and we will pay that until 2029. So it was a bond we spent it all up front. We will pay that off by the end of 2029. But we need to spend the money by February of 2023. And when you look at our operations, most of our money goes out during the summer. So when we look at budgeting, the budgeting process is really heavy summer costs. Winter, not so bad unless we have a storm, and then spring picks back up again. Back to the bond. This is about one of the simplest budgets we can run into. We've got our revenue, and to close that out, you'll see that our anticipation is to only spend that on paving with a little bit of gravel support. And we are looking at buying asphalt and in Tillamook, just outside the city of Tillamook, for $88 a ton. So it might actually be an outdated number already, a few weeks after this. $88 a ton, to put it into a ton. That tells you how many miles of road we can pave or not pave, simply because we're buying the asphalt at a much higher cost. The cost on the asphalt plus some additional aggregate, $830,000, and that will close that account out, which we have to do by February of 2023. 308 is when we get into the more complicated projects. These are the ones that span multiple fiscal years. We see the impacts of the Infrastructure Investments Act, IIJL. Is the official name. You might hear it referred to as a bipartisan infrastructure law. That is kind of the unofficial name, but that seems to be what's coming out of that. That has more to do with politics, Democrats versus Republicans, and how they want to name things. So it is transitioning to the bill fund, and all the transportation programs have names such as MAP 21, ICE, routes, etc. So it is currently referred to as IIJL or bill. Oddly enough, IIJL can be pronounced ILJA, which is I'm told similar to the Irish pronunciation of idiot. So well, let's make sure you guys are still awake. So when you look at that, cash revenue that comes directly to Tillamook County, you'll see the local at 9%. This is again going to Oregon. That gets divvied up amongst the state, the counties, and the cities. Our portion of that is somewhere between $13,000 to $75,000. The biggest thing for the county is that most of the rest of this is really grant-based programs. Bridge and flexible funds are really where we would tie into that, and that's really more grant-based program. And everybody needs to apply for the grant. So, but our local match on that is somewhere between $13,000 to $75,000. Because 308 deals with a lot of the larger projects, these are the road construction projects, we project out multiple years going from not only this year adopted to projected, what do we anticipate for this proposed fiscal year, and then also what do we anticipate for the following fiscal year that continues on. But only in our presentation went out to the year 2023. So many of these are actually FEMA projects. All the FEMA projects were associated with the 2015 storm event. We do also have expenses, not a reimbursable, expenses associated with bridge design projects related to the 2015 storm event, and also the Big Trout Bridge. So when you look at our revenue expenses, it is likely we will have between 6 to 7 bridges under construction in the summer of 2024. So we need to make sure that we have the matching funds to meet our obligations to fund these bridges. But because we have so much money that's coming into this program, kind of highlighted here, to help support that, we are transferring from Fund 160, $1.5 million to help support these larger projects. This year we have transferred $1 million. The proposed budget is $1.5 million, and the budget following is $1.5 million in order to meet our obligations. But we have doubled down on the grant opportunities in design, as well as in particular matching funds for construction, which does not have a dedicated project associated with it, but when projects do pop up. We did run into, in this fiscal year, we had declared emergency on a number of bridges. There was actually a total of 6. We declared emergency on 4. All that was taken care of. Those 4 bridges, we ended up with just shy of $400,000 to resolve the emergency projects through a combination of different techniques. We've been buying used equipment or used materials, used bridge beams, etc., with the intent that we would see a culvert blowout. In this case, we had timber bridges that had problems we had the material in our yard, so we were able to utilize that and get our road system back up and running without traffic impacts and delay to trucks, or minimize the amount of delays to the trucks, which is good timing. So when this last winter, Highway 101 shut down to a massive slide that took them a number of days to take care of, all that traffic was routed onto Miami-Foley. And a month or two prior to the rerouting of traffic, we had repaired one of our emergency bridges on Miami-Foley so that it could carry the vehicles. Instead of carrying a 10-ton vehicle but posted at 10 tons, we could carry full weight, all the timber trucks, dairy trucks, septic tank trucks, things of that nature. But things happen, so you saw it before, we had $800,000 contingency in fiscal year, or in Fund 160. We've included another $500,000 this fiscal year to deal with infrastructure that we can just put together at a minute's notice. We've carried that forward because, again, when I got here, there are two things of significance that I was most concerned about, and that was staffing, which we'll get into, and then culverts. So culverts remain a critical concern, and $500,000 accomplishes that. Staffing, as you've heard from everybody else, staffing is a significant component to us. Under our existing organization chart, you'll see that what we have in green are people that we have hired within the last year, some of which their starting date is next Monday, and then we have another starting date on May 2nd. Those two hires, which are the MEO1s, they are basically flaggers for us. Without drivers, all we have left are flaggers. One of the things as I'm going through this, putting together this slideshow, is when you look at emergency response times, and this could be out, we've had sanding trucks out today, we've had snow plows out today, go figure, in April until they've been out there. South County, we have 4 people that have been here more than a year. I've been here 4.5 years, and when you look at that, there's only 2 people of the maintenance crews that have been here longer than I have been, and that's honestly kind of scary. South County has got 4 experienced operators, and North County has 3 experienced operators, beyond people that have been here more than a year. So that's not much. So altogether, you're dealing with only 7 experienced people that are maintaining 364 miles worth of road. Proposed, again, this is assuming that we're fully staffed, which is unlikely. But if we're fully staffed, our anticipation is to hire an additional MEO2, an additional mechanic, and an engineering project manager, which used to exist. Point to notice is that our vegetation sign person is no longer with us, which has effectively shut down our vegetation weed spray program, and has also effectively shut down our sign program. We do have workaround solutions for our sign project, or our sign program. Vegetation management, which is weed spraying, is one that we are currently working on resolving that issue. Support, we help out community development. The more community development gets busy, the more we get busy. That, David, comes into the form of the subdivision reviews. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, I'm attending the planning commission. It is getting to be where it's almost kind of recurring way too frequently. Survey department, you're from Mike Rice, that Mike and his staff they're doing more survey work for us. Part of that is they have some availability to do that. I don't see that changing in the future. There's just not that many surveying firms that we can draw from. You heard from Joanne that we work back and forth on their help. Probably the biggest thing with Parks is that it's just another source that I can talk to as far as how are you guys resolving some of these issues. And Joanne and Melissa have been very, very good to work with. Our biggest challenges, number one, when I got here, I knew 5 years ago that we were going to see almost all of our maintenance staff flip over because of retirements. What I did not anticipate at that point was the difficulty in hiring CDL drivers. We've seen on the national news that the commercial driver license they're in hot demand, and that ripples down to Tillamook County. Hiring people is difficult, but hiring CDL drivers, at least from my experience, is almost impossible to do. Retention is the word of the game. It's very difficult to hire new recruitments, difficult to hire new people. We have lost 5 employees to informal headhunters. By that, I mean somebody knows somebody who says that there's a job opening, and a current one that's being cycled through the crew is essentially $4 an hour raise with a $4 an hour addition going, a part of their salary would go into their retirement. I know that I have not been able to prove that out, although I do know that other counties are offering 11% match to some of their employees for retirement, and that's significant. If you've seen, and this, I haven't driven it recently, but it wasn't that long ago, and it might still be going on. If you want to drive a school bus, you receive a $4,500 signing bonus. To drive a school bus, you need to have a CDL license. That is the CDL fee, which means you need to drive a truck. You don't have to drive a truck. Public Works, we need the guys that can drive the dump trucks as well as haul the trailers around. Because on the back of the trailers are often the backhoes and excavators and other equipment. Federal requirements, new federal requirements is that we need to be federally certified in order to train CDL drivers. In the past, we could hire on non-CDL drivers and train them in-house. Well, nationwide, we're having a major issue in getting CDL drivers, so federal requirements are now requiring that you become federally certified trainers to help alleviate the situation. So we've been actively discussing, how do we deal with this so that we can become, trained. We've been working with community college, J.J. Keller, and us to come up with a solution. And I think we've got a path moving forward. Fundamentally, if Public Works does not have drivers, we are only left with flaggers in the maintenance staff. So those 7 people become flaggers, and just having flaggers does us no good. In addition to that, so there are a total of 3 positions I was looking for. One was an additional maintenance equipment operator, which is a CDL position. A mechanic, I'm not sure we can find it, but it's part of succession planning. That person needs to be entry level, which is just to assist with servicing vehicles. We can do some training in-house. We don't believe we can compete in the market, but if we don't throw that out there, we won't get them. One of the bigger things for me personally is the engineering project manager. A brand new, freshly minted, recently just got their bachelor's degree in engineering, civil engineering, with 0 experience, without having the engineers in training license, is $65,000. The infrastructure bill that was passed by the Fed will likely increase the starting salary with no experience. Again, this is a brand new minted bachelor's certificate or bachelor's degree. That will bring that salary up to $75,000. As that infrastructure bill starts to come down the wayside, anybody that's got a professional engineer's degree or that is in the civil engineering transportation profession, engineer, that they are, pretty much worth their weight in gold. We are looking for somebody that has experience. They do not need to have a professional engineer license, because I have that. But this is not a position where we would simply just fill a seat to fill a seat. The difficulty in hiring that specific type of person is that there is no place for them to move into. It's difficult to buy a house in Tillamook County, as everybody has commented on the past. We are also impacted in, we rely a lot on consultants to do some of our design. But as the federal infrastructure dollars ripple now, the people that we could normally tap into are doing work for ODOT, they're doing work for Multnomah or Clackamas County, people that have larger projects that pay more money. Those people go by, they're no longer accessible because they're already tied up. Which means we need to do more in-house design, of which we have 2 projects ongoing. Mike had mentioned doing some survey for a number of projects. One is the Cape Mears parking lot drainage. That starts on Monday, the 18th. And we have the Fairview Road of Huey Creek is currently closed. Mike and the survey department has done the field survey for that. We're about through not quite at 60% design associated with that. We're doing that in-house. Trying to do the review of that versus other obligations is getting a bit tricky. But we do need their support. The other thing that an engineer and project manager can do is assist with grant support. With all the money, as you saw previously, that's associated with that infrastructure bill, a lot of it is tied to grants. And if you don't apply for a grant, you're not going to get a grant. But if you don't have the information to apply for a grant, you can't even apply for a grant. So that's kind of where we're lacking right now. In addition to that, when you look at the mechanic and the engineer and project manager, we're also looking at succession planning. And that kind of sums it up in a very quick overview. A lot of information that was thrown at you. And it covered 37 different slides and wrapped up the session. So, what questions do you have with me? One of the comments that Mary Faith and I had commented on is, Chris, you do a good job, but you tend to throw a lot of information out there. I threw a lot of this together with the intent that it would be available for the public online.
Any questions?
I'm paraphrasing you, Mary Faith, I apologize.
Yes,
So, Chris, one of the last things you said was that you're interested in an engineering project manager for succession planning, which I appreciate, but I haven't heard you say that you're planning on retiring anytime soon. So I'm just confirming that you don't have an end date.
So, all right, I'll clarify that. I have been offered probably 10 different jobs, and I've said to no all of them. And my intention is to continue to say no. But when I look at succession, planning, we have 3 engineer tech positions. Engineer tech 3, which is our highest level tech position. At some point in the future, that person will retire. And the intent is that this position will basically fulfill that role, plus also serve more as a mentor towards others. I really enjoy the mentoring program that I do. I enjoyed that when I was in the private sector. I enjoyed that when I was an assistant scoutmaster for the Boy Scouts. It's something that I really truly enjoy. But I think that every 5 minutes I'm transitioning from one topic to another topic to another topic, and no one single topic is getting its due diligence that I could present to it. I need to dedicate more time to more than 5 minutes and jump to another topic. The succession planning that I mentioned is really in relationship to our engineering tech 3 position.
Thank you.
So Chris, this is Bill. I've got one question. It's mostly just for my enlightenment. The Cape Mears Lighthouse Road, is that still ongoing?
That is ongoing. It's a great question, Bill. It began construction, and they needed to fall all the trees before February 28th because of the migratory bird treaty with Canada. So it's an international treaty, and that was a critical milestone in that project. So all the trees have been fallen. Everything is done under a prime contract with the contractor between Federal Highway and M.A. Diatley. So everything associated with that, including the trees, are associated with that project. All the trees have been fallen. Actual beginning of true construction work will start taking place in the next couple of months. Open to the public. It's a 2-summer operation, but the road will be open to the public in August, September of 2024. There's a lot of material to move up there, a lot of retaining walls up there. It's not a simple project.
Thank you.
Lots of trucks moving around. Lots of trucks.
Chris, where are we, the bond now has, the money in this budget will be used up. So what is the longer term for asking voters to support another bond, or, and I'm not sure, where are we on the retirement schedule? I know it was split into halves to avoid some arbitrage issues. I don't know, so last treasurer, is that paid off when?
2029.
29, so that's
Yes.
got a ways to go.
Yes.
That was 20 years, so.
It was 5 and 10.
Okay, so what are the conversations then about asking for some additional bond money to take care of the bigger stuff?
So the Citizen Roadway Advisory Committee and I have been discussing this for the last number of sessions. I've reached out to the assessor's office and they've given me some information. We've done some projections moving forward as far as currently we're paying 26 cents per thousand. If we were to generate another 26 cents per thousand, that would equate to about $1.5 million. But when you get into, that would essentially double what your taxes are associated with the road bond, the road department, from 26 to 52 cents per $1,000. With that 26 cents, anything much less than 26 cents per $1,000, there's a certain threshold below that where it really doesn't make a lot of sense to go after. And 26 cents per thousand is that's about the minimum we would really want to go after. But that's a double what you would pay for the road department until you get to 2029. By 2023, your tax rate, what you would pay for the road department would be cut in half. But so that's the Citizen Roadway Advisory Committee and us, the road department, we've been actively talking about that for the last number of months.
So what would be the principal amount, though? You're talking about the repayment and the tax burden. How much would principal be on that?
I don't have my cheat sheets with me.
Well, the last one was 15 million, but you got a much higher assessed base now, so it wouldn't be closer to 20 or somewhere in there.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'd have to go
We're
back
not
to.
exploring a future bond, we're exploring a levy. And it's a great question. We really haven't, gotten into that level of detail, Doug. I can't answer that question at this time. Maybe Sean can, but I can't.
I don't have an answer at this time, but I can definitely get you one.
Well, I'm just trying to think ahead that you've got, aside from your personnel issues, which everybody seems to have, there's a shortage of capital for the bigger long-term stuff too, but everybody has that same issue, other organizations, as well as we've talked about radio and some of the other things, so, you can only ask for so much so often.
And I think that's the question that the CRAC, which is Citizens Roadway Advisory Committee, I love the person that came up with that acronym. But that's a question that internally, the CRAC is discussing, and I'm discussing with them at what point is it reasonable to ask for it, and what dollar amount? You ask for too little, and it's not even relevant. And then it comes down to when do you ask for the funds associated with that. That's an ongoing discussion we're having with the CRAC at this moment. Is it reasonable to double the people's taxes associated with the road department? And keep in mind when people, again, the public, when you look at your tax statements, you have the transportation tax. That, what you see, is associated with WAVE, which is, again, this is the transit system. Our funds show up as part of the general county funds, general county bonds. That it's different when you look at your tax statement. It doesn't come across as, hey, that's the road department. No, that's actually the transit crew.
No, understand, it's under the big umbrella. What else do we have for Chris?
Chris, this is Mike Scott from up in Manzanita. I just want to make sure that Nee Kearney Road, which I believe is a county road up there, is on your radar screen. We got a tremendous amount of growth going on up there. You know, that's the road that runs from the Shell station off 101 back into Nahalem Bay State Park. And I understand the state park's activating their master plan. They're going to expand by 50% this summer. I know that Recology's asked the transfer station up there if they can go down that road and dump their trash, dump their trucks in there. And of course, we've got a ton of development going on the back nine of the golf course that runs along that road. I think the city's in the process of doing a traffic study on the Classic extension, because that's going to be impacted too. I just want to make sure you're aware of all that up there. And I don't know what the answer is, but I just think the traffic's going to explode on that chunk of road here in the next year.
Thank you for that, Mike. I've been actively sitting in on the the Tri-City Transportation Plan update, and I've been looking at and commenting on the different alternative analysis and solutions that are taking place up there. So I am familiar with the work that is going on up there. When we look at prioritizing roads, we are certainly looking at the volume of traffic, emergency response, and type of vehicles, future development. We're taking a lot of different information into account in order to determine how we prioritize roads and where do we shift those funds. So I really appreciate the comment, and I am aware of proposed future solutions for that.
Okay.
And Mike, if the city of Manzanita is interested in doing a jurisdictional transfer, you have my full support.
There you go.
Well, thank you for that offer.
Good things happen at the budget committee.
There you go. I like it. Good job, Chris.
Anything else for Chris?
This is the question I've been asking everyone. How many empty positions do you currently have, Chris?
A lot.
So currently, we have 3 vacant positions, and I want to comment on that is we just filled 2 positions with MEO1s, and these are people that do not have a driver's license or a commercial driver's license that we have to train in-house. So on top of those 2 people, which, again, they're basically players that need to be drivers, we have currently 3 vacant positions.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank
All
you,
right,
Chris.
well, we have all your documents and your rationale and ready for another round, so thank you very much. And we're good to go. Let's take now our break that was scheduled a couple of minutes only. Let's take just 10 minutes and then we'll hit the fair and finish up with the health department today. So we'll take 10.